but it was more about attitude and getting people who weren't from the sector. So it's getting a 19-year-old who's, decided that college isn't right for them, or it's somebody who's changing jobs and reskilling, or it's somebody who's been out of work for a while. It's somebody who's in working for housing or living a housing association property and needs to have stability in their world, and we can find them a role that gives them long-term stability and career progression. If you talk to people about logistics, the second thing they tell you about, not only is it in the warehouse or it's in a wagon, the conditions are always poor. They always say, and you don't get any breaks, and you never get this, and you don't get that, and I wouldn't want to be in that environment, dark environment, for all day long. That's the perception of logistics. Yeah. And it's so far from the truth. And apprenticeships are for everybody. I'm in the oldest apprenticeship apprentice I've had on. I think he was 67, so he was kind of coming up, or maybe 65, coming up for retirement anyway. He's coming up for retirement, but there was a year where he could really make quite a big contribution to the employer if he was able to do these skills. So he came on, he went through and contributed. At the moment, SMEs, if they're taking 16 to 24-year-olds on, that's 100% of the training and assessment is paid for. So the government, regardless, it's not used to be Levy and they had to make a contribution. Now if it's 16 to 24-year-olds funded, and there's the additional £2,000 for every person they take on. So it makes sense for SMEs to really explore this. It's not going to be right for everyone, but I think it's probably better than it's ever been.
Hi, it's Chris here from Talent Unboxed, and today I am joined by David Cormack from the Bedford College Group, and we're talking about how we've established a partnership with the National College of Logistics to provide better staff and more trained logistics staff into the logistics sector. So please like, follow and subscribe. And if you found the podcast for the first time, thank you very much. But subscription or a like and engagement is the only way we can continue with the podcast. So enjoy this episode and we will speak to you soon. Hi, David. Welcome to Talent Unboxed. I'm delighted to have you here. And I'm actually really excited about this episode because typically when we're having guests on, they're normally in logistics or are a founder of a business, but this episode is something a little bit different, which I'm excited about sharing with everybody. So do you want to just introduce yourself and what it is you do?
Yeah, sure. David Cormack. I'm head of school for the National College for Logistics. That's part of Bedford College Group, and really the vision for the National College for Logistics is to establish a college that is the provider for the sector, for logistics. It doesn't do anything else. It really is about formulating a strategy that delivers for employers. So it's finding out how they can work with us to create that next generation workforce that they need.
Yep.
So it's been a really interesting year. We launched September of last year, so it's coming up for a year, and we've had couple of organisations we work really closely with. GXO has been an amazing organisation who kind of have co-designed programs for entry into logistics. But it's also given me a new insight. And I mean, I've been in the sector for a really long time, but it's given me a new impetus, a new energy to really try and bring about lasting change in the sector.
And I think, I know we've been talking for a number of months.
Yeah.
And we'll share with everybody listening what it is that we're working on together with in a little while. But I think what's really important around the work you're doing now is obviously it's been well publicised on the news that 18 to 24-year-olds are, the right up there in terms of the levels of unemployment, right? So trying to get them into seeing what logistics offers has been a challenge for a number of years, not just a recent one. Logistics isn't seen as a particularly Gucci industry. It's normally people see it as, I just don't want to move boxes around. So what is it that the college is now doing? And like I said, I'm really super excited about this because I can see that it's something that's been needed for a long time. And I know others have tried it and they've dabbled in it, but I think the way that you guys are going about it is very different. So where did the idea come from?
Well, I think I started the project with another guy called David Cormack, who was the head of skills for logistics for a while, and we talked about what the vision would be for a national college, and it was what we wanted to be was the opposite of all the other activity that was going on in the sector. So what you have is training providers doing really good occupational training. So you want to be a lorry driver. Okay, well, here's a license for to be a lorry driver. We'll take you through that journey and we'll get you into that role. Or we're going to train you, give you kind of grassroots initial training to become a warehouse person. So we'll give you a level 1 qualification in warehouse. The way I view this is that lorry driving, key occupation, warehouse, key occupation, but that's the foundation for a career in logistics. So what we're doing that is different to other colleges, where other colleges do this, but they do what I've just explained, or training providers where they're also doing occupational pieces, is that we provide a true stairway, a career progression plan with the employer. So we curate that journey to make sure that any individual coming to the sector has a view of where they're going. And then the other key element to it is that what we try to do is match that to funding. So government funds certain programs. The college is very visionary in the breadth of programs that it delivers. So what we can do is, we've just, for one particular employer, we've just created a short AI program tailored to their need, but it's all about logistics. And that's the kind of the evolution of the National College for Logistics, is rethinking, reinventing what logistics is about. Because logistics is tech businesses that happen to deliver pallets and boxes. That's the thing.
And it's ever changing, right? I know when I've been to events at the Bedford College Group, and they've said, that it might take 2 years to frame a course that is relevant at the time of creating it, but then by the time it's signed off by governing bodies, it's probably outdated, right? In a lot of sectors. I'm not just talking about logistics. So how do you keep up with that? I think what you guys are managing to do by curating it together with employers means it's very much bespoke to that individual company's need.
And I think that's the thing. We have the capability within the team to be able to work both effectively with the employer, but also with Bedford College Group to create programs that can be delivered in the right timeline to be able to deliver the need that they have. So it is creating the jobs that are required for the sector now. And I think I guess that's the two things are career progression and making it actually work for the market, actually drive programs that aren't what traditionally happens in training providers and colleges, and anybody who's watching, I apologize for this, but generally the training providers and colleges will take a qualification off a shelf and they will go, okay, here's the qualification, Mr. Customer, this is the qualification we're going to deliver for you. And what we're doing is spending more time in a discovery session with the employer. We do a deep dive with them, not to just understand what's required now, but what's the future need? What's that next generation really look like? And what's the journey that we can go on with them to co-create?
Let's talk about the apprentice levy.
Yeah.
Because I know that for many businesses that are paying into it are typically, there must be a huge amount of it that's going unspent, right?
Well, that's it. I mean, there's about, I think in total, there's about 400 million that goes back in every year. It varies depending on who you talk to. But as an overall, it's about 3.5-4 billion, I think, that goes in, and about 400 million of that is coming out again and going back into government because it's unspent. And some organisations, sorry,
it's massive.
Yeah, and I think some organisations have such structured programs in place that they see this as additional bureaucracy and they don't want to go down that line. Some of them see it as a tax anyway. So this is based on 3 million payroll. If you've got 3 million payroll, 1.5% of that, there's a small £15,000 kind of bit of fluctuation at the front end. But it's those organisations with more than 3 million payroll, that's the levy organisations. And some organisations literally just treat that as a tax and just will not engage at all. Logistics organisations, in my experience, 42 years in sector, this is my view, is that margins are tight, time is tight. I don't need the distraction of somebody telling me that I need to have something that has to happen like this. And it's been the same challenge of 22 years in education, working with the logistics sector. I've had those conversations. One organisation, I won't mention their name, but when Levy first came out, so we're talking 2017, I sat down with them and they had about 2.5 million spend on management training and various other things. And we sat down and we did a exercise where we did a kind of Venn diagram of, this is what Levy can buy you, this is what you're paying for at the moment. And we kind of did an overlap and we were amazed how much of the management training that they were paying for actually sat within management programs that could be delivered.
Levy funded, yeah.
So about just over half of their budget for management training was then in the future Levy funded. So
saved them a fortune.
Saved them a fortune.
Yeah.
But you have to go in with a creative view. I think it's going back to that, the sector overall hasn't done a great job of talking to logistics organisations about the solution. They've gone in and said, how much levy have you got? Or you can have 10 of those, 5 of those and 3 of those, rather than saying, okay, what's the future requirement? What's the journey that we need to go on? What's your demographic? What's been the impact of Brexit on your business? All of those things. We have to look at it in the round and understand what the right solution for the organisation is. And that's really important. And then it's not a matter of saying instantly, I've got a solution for you. It's a matter of working. We do a kind of big discovery for the organisation, but we also do a kind of mini discovery for departments and say, okay, what's the pain you're feeling here? Let's find a way that would make this work for you, and making it relevant to them, making it so they really do get the value added from it.
So tell me, why has this solution not been done before? What is it that the scope of the Bedford College Group has got that means that they can be this more bespoke offering?
I think it's, from my perspective, I think it's about the ability to know and understand sector. If you really understand what the drivers are, I had a role before this where I was deeply involved with the sector for 25 years, worked across 9 countries. I kind of knew what the key drivers were. So I can sit down in a logistics organisation, and I believe that the the combination of my understanding of how funding works and how logistics organisations work, I can make that kind of that magic happen by putting those two things together. I think the majority of the sectors that we work in, I'm not saying this is Bedford College Group, but across education as a whole, and this is looking at the amount of money that goes back into the pot, is that people aren't providing solutions. They're providing the qualifications, but not providing the solution. And I think that's the wraparound, isn't it?
Yeah, because we've had similar circumstances here, and even with basic administration apprenticeships or office or business apprenticeships, is that the modules have always been very rigid, and you'll see that businesses will tend to pick the one where they can tick the most modules rather than it being right for them. And I know, as a college or a training provider, you can't create the education system over and over and over again to suit every single business. There has to be a framework around it.
Yeah.
However, I think, what you guys are doing is fantastic. And I think that bit, that the pre-employment bit that we're going to work together on is the bit that I think is going to be quite game changing when it comes to how not only are the young seeing logistics, I think that's a big challenge, and there's going to need a lot of work around that anyway, but also then how SMEs and businesses are going to make use of upskilled individuals before they come in. So let's talk about that piece.
Yeah, well, I think it's worth saying as a start, 2.7 million people work in the sector, 8% of the UK workforce work in the sector. Vacancies remain unfilled regularly, and it's generally because people don't understand what logistics is, and to a certain extent, most of my time is spent talking to people about what it isn't. That's what I spend most. It isn't about fork trucks. It isn't about warehouse. It's about lots of different things, as you know. And so we designed a program, a 3-week program that we co-curated with GXO initially, called Entry into Logistics, and it was a level 3 program, so it's kind of A-level kind of level. So it's kind of quite senior. But the way we designed it was that it was building on knowledge over the course of the 3 weeks. So there will be elements that are A-level, but there's some really kind of quite basic things to learn. And week 1 was very much about what is this sector? What do we know about this sector? Why would we want to be in it? So we talk about the actual employer. And week 2 is giving them the skills so that they can be valuable day 1. So it's something that they can get excited about. But when they talk to an employer will go, do you know what? I can see how you can add value to my business day 1. And week 3 is about norms of work, getting people into a mindset. So it's more about behaviour than it is around skills. It is some prep for interview, but it's more about attitude. I honestly believe that as this sector, you don't need to be academic, but this is the reason why I believe it's probably the perfect sector for social mobility, because you can come in, you don't need to be academic, you can come in at grassroots, but you can progress quickly if you're bright, you're sharp, you've got the right attitude, energy and appearance is what I always say to people. If you've got the right kind of can-do attitude, you've come in with a bit of energy, a bit of a bounce to you. You know what you're doing, and appearance is, again, this is not about looking smart, but it's about having an appearance where you look like you're going to be somebody who can deliver. If you can get those 3 things right, and so there's an awful lot in those 3 weeks, but we can create something that's specialist for any organisation. So, an organisation should come along and say, do you know what we really need? We need people who are this. Okay, well, let's look at how we can make that work. We're slightly modifying the programme for this academic year, so we're just starting as of August the 1st, new program. We're going to have mainly 2-week programs rather than 3-week, just because we feel that we can put more of it into those 2 weeks, and we can support them once they're in work. Once they land in work, but we can get quite a lot of that completed within the 2 weeks. But it's worked well. It's delivered high levels of success across kind of Bedfordshire and Northamptonshire. We've done what I hoped we would do, which is really prove that we can make a difference, because there's an awful lot of people who were delivering level 1 programs, and everybody thought that was the kind of the run of the mill programs. We can bolt on things like fork truck and all the other skills that are needed, but it was more about attitude and getting people who weren't from the sector. So it's getting a 19-year-old who's decided that college isn't right for them, or it's somebody who's changing jobs and reskilling, or it's somebody who's been out of work for a while. It's somebody who's in working for housing or living a housing association property and needs to have stability in their world, and we can find them a role that gives them long-term stability and career progression. That's kind of the way.
So I think let's touch on that. So people can do a 2-week course, and then in addition to, if a business who's listening now and realizes they're struggling to get lollop drivers or PPT skill, they can reach out to you. They can have a look at a cohort of people in their area that are going through this course, or candidates that might be going through this course, and then you will be able to have a conversation with them about how they can get they could select 2 or 3 people out of this group and go, right, I like these guys. They show the right attitude, energy, appearance, like you've said. And then you'll upskill them with the lollop license that's funded
to meet the needs of the organisation. So what we can tailor it according to need of the organisation. We'll do the recruitment piece, some of the recruitment piece. So we will, we'll go out to referral partners. We'll create a pool of individuals. We'll put them. We'll do a kind of vetting process at the front end. We'll get a spec off the employer that we think we can work with, and we'll kind of fine tune it with them, and then we'll put them into the program.
Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously the bit that people are when they're listening to this are going to be, they've got to take these people on, and they continue to develop them is the overarching plan, right?
Yeah.
So that they can then, because there's lots of changes coming in August that you touched on before, so let's just say hypothetically, I'm an SME business.
Yeah.
I haven't got many employees, but I've got a logistics arm. I want to, from a corporate and social responsibility, take part in utilising the college for logistics. I'll be happy to take 2 or 3 people off you. What does that process look like? Just break that down really quick.
Yeah. So I always start with discovery. So even for an SME, SME organisation, I want to come in and I want to get to know their organisation. I want to know what they're really working towards. Once we've identified the 2 people that they want to have in their organisation, we've identified what that person should look like, what the 100% satisfied, what the ideal candidate would look like. Then we go out and we find them. We're also in the background, we're tailoring a program for them, regardless if they're SME or a larger organisation. We're still doing that. So we take them through their funded program for 2 weeks. They come in and meet them halfway through and go, I really like these 4 or 5, really want to take them through to interview. We ask during that 2-week period that there is some time, a morning or an afternoon, where they can come and see the organisation, so that they get the opportunity really to demonstrate the knowledge that we've taught them in that environment. We always think that it's quite good for them to feel confident, come in and go, I've noticed you're using the lollops this way, or why don't you use VNA in here, or have you got a bendy or a flexi doing this? Those sorts of questions, that they're interested, or some of the stuff that we're doing on net zero in those programs, that they can perhaps contribute to a smaller organization. And we've started talking to them about, some of the green elements of logistics. So that's the start of it. Then they come through, they go for interview. But what we want to do is find a way that they can progress from that point. So we would like to see quite a fair percentage, I don't know what number that is, Chris, but going into apprenticeship. Mm-hmm. And at the moment, SMEs, if they're taking 16 to 24-year-olds on, that's 100% of the training and assessment is paid for. So the government, regardless, it's not used to be Levy and they had to make a contribution. Now if it's 16 to 24-year-olds funded, and there's the additional £2,000 for every person they take on. So it makes sense for SMEs to really explore this. It's not going to be right for everyone, but I think it's probably better than it's ever been as an opportunity, because you can try before you buy. You've got that pool built, you've got the best candidates coming through, and then you're seeing them come into your business. And then there's the way that we work, Chris, isn't there?
Yeah, and I think that's the bit that, I think is going to change this up even another notch, if I'm being honest. We deal with lots of businesses, and I've already felt interest from businesses wanting to explore this, right? Like, we're going back to what we said 10 minutes ago. The levy pot isn't always being spent, so they see it as an additional tax. So they're thinking, right, how can we, and that includes us. I think the last time I looked, we had a levy pot of probably £150,000 that, unless we're pushing apprenticeships in our own business, which we do have, but never to the scale that we're going to be able to use all of that pot, right? We've gifted some of our pot to smaller organisations for them to make use of apprenticeships. Yeah. But what you're saying now is in August, we don't need to do that anymore, because any SME will be able to take an apprentice on and be fully funded, which is massive, massive news. Not only that, they could get a £2,000 kind of kickback for doing it, which again helps towards wages. Yeah. But what we're doing with you guys is, if a business wants to make use of this upskilled labour pool that you guys are delivering, we're helping you source candidates or screen them as well. Yeah. We'll line up employers that want to take some of these guys, but not to the point where they have to take them on perm. What they can then do is utilise our services as providing them as on the temp payroll. Yeah. But our pot will pay for any additional training they want to do if they go on to further apprenticeship.
Exactly. So they can start their apprenticeship with you. You take them on, and that program is tailored to the employer's need. It's not about you. It's still about the employer and about the progression of that individual. So I think it's the perfect model. We get the foundation learning, we get the pool of learners, we bring them through, they're developed. We make sure that they've got skills that mirror what are required on an apprenticeship, so we can carry on building, getting them more enthusiastic. Because as we both know, once you're in the sector, what tends to happen is you flip and change. You'll go next door for another £1 to go and move next door. If you're on an apprenticeship and you're on a progression plan, we've discovered that it provides the stability of workforce long term, and it also shows you're investing and caring about that individual. Yeah. We can also do short course provision, that fire marshal and all the other things that make people feel like they're invested in, and they're part of an organisation who care. Yeah. And I think that's going to be absolutely critical. And I think that changes the mindset. If you talk to people about logistics, the second thing they tell you about, not only is it in the warehouse or it's in a wagon, the conditions are always poor. They always say, and you don't get any breaks, and you never get this, and you don't get that, and I wouldn't want to be in that environment, dark environment, for all day long. That's the perception of logistics, and it's so far from the truth. And I think there have been definitely, and both you and I know the organisations where that has been the case historically. But I think that these days, and partly because of the fact that it became so difficult to fulfil roles, they've become organisations who do really want to create that next generation workforce.
And if I think back to, I'd probably go as close as even 10 years, right? Agency staff were always treated separately to full-time colleagues. Fast forward 10 years, I think organisations that are successful now see that very differently. They're all treated equally, as it very much should be, right? If I'm working alongside a permanent person and I'm a temp, I'm not doing anything different to that person other than, you know, I might not have a uniform on, or you know, I'm not getting any benefits for the business might offer, but I'm still doing the same job. So why shouldn't I be treated the same? I think that mindset's very different now. But I think just to summarize what you're saying, you know, we need to do some education around how great the logistics space is for young people that are finding themselves in that horrible statistic of unemployment that we're seeing around the young. So we'll attract those young people into logistics. We'll develop them through the college's boot camp courses and the 2-week plans that you've got on. We'll find employers for them that they will equally be able to see and experience the environment firsthand, rather than just having somebody turn up at the course and go, "Oh, yeah, you'll be good in my business," and then not knowing what they're walking into, right? So it's a mutual thing where they're seeing it, wanting it, getting a taste of it. And then not only, it doesn't stop there, that's the most important bit. If they want to continue developing themselves and progressing in that career, which I think, you know, any logistics business listening should be exploring, because otherwise they're always going to moan about the skill shortage if they don't. They can then push them through further qualifications with you, show a real career path journey, whether that be on the temp payroll, and we might be paying that Levy pot and funding the training, or if they've took them on directly and then they're using you to upskill them. I think the fact that there's now that really solid view of, for people that are committed into getting in the space, because I know lots of general managers that started off as warehouse managers, right? Or warehouse operatives.
Absolutely.
And
managing directors who started off as wagon drivers. I mean, there's that is the sector.
But it seemed to have lost its way a little bit, I think, in that space. So now trying to bring that back in this way where it isn't as rigid as, well, you have to do this course. You're able to blend it. You're able to mix stuff in. You're chucking AI in, which is like a big subject now. I think businesses that want to have a conversation with you about this are going to really benefit from it. But, you know, ultimately, how are they supposed to get in touch with the college now?
Well, there's the website's probably the best place to start. The NC4O website. There's a kind of link through. You can put your very basic details, and we'll get back to you within 24 hours, and book an introductory session. And that's probably a really good starting point. What I always say is, you know, if we come to visit you, we can do a discovery session. Worst case scenario, there will be something will come out of it. You know, you never have to see us again if you don't like what we're talking about. But generally, as a general rule, any organisation who goes through a discovery process finds something of value for them. So, you know, there's something there that they really want to work on. One thing I would just say is that you were talking about the, you know, temps and full-time staff never feeling like they're part of the same thing. One of the great things that I've experienced is that if temps are on a apprenticeship and employees are on apprenticeship and they're buddying up, it really creates a very strong kind of synergy within a warehouse that can really work well. So I would definitely recommend that. But I think, you know, a bit of crystal ball gazing, I would say that qualifications going forward with our new PM in place, there's a lot of talk about stackable quals. So these are kind of bringing in, the programs we're delivering on AI at the moment are unit based. So they're 30-hour apprenticeships, little units, still Levy paid for, but are not a year. They're literally 30 hours, level 5. And what we're finding is, managers, departmental managers, operations managers, all can have some input, and we can tailor that content to make it really work for them, so they're getting something out of it. But I think the future looks like you could do, a little bit of, license acquisition, and then you could be in supervisory management quals, and you could do, there's actually a journey that you can go that kind of makes sense to you, rather than being a kind of variety of full 1-year qualifications. Actually, it will be a blended offer. I think that's what the future looks like.
I think it's also probably important to point out that if, obviously the podcast is not only to give tips and advice to employers of how to get best out of the talent market, but it's also for individuals looking for work, how they could get the best out of the space, right?
Yeah.
So if somebody sat there thinking about logistics, and then they're hearing this podcast episode and it's talking about apprenticeships.
Yeah.
Let's just clarify. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be on apprenticeship money, does it?
No.
They are. It's just a course that is going to be. Correct me if I'm wrong, right?
Yeah.
It's a course that is going to give you a qualification at the end of it. That kind of is authenticating what you're doing every day.
It's work-based learning. It's really I always think of it. Work-based learning could be paid for by the employer, could be paid for by government, could be paid for by anybody. It could be paid for by the individual. This one is particularly paid for by the government. So the majority of it, it's a levy payment that comes out, but that goes back into government and then is fed out to the providers. So from my perspective, the way I view this is work-based learning. Since 2017, this is about employers. So it's about the employers tailoring their provision for individuals to progress. So if there's an individual there, this is about your journey within that organization. This is kind of see what I mean? It's kind of irrelevant who's paying for it. It's work-based learning. This is about your progression.
No, I wasn't necessarily meaning about who's paying for the course. It was more about they're not going to come in on 200 quid a week. No, you're still going to be earning the same money as you would be, but the benefit of this is you're now doing it. You're now developing yourself as well as being on the journey.
And apprenticeships are for everybody. I mean, the oldest apprenticeship apprentice I've had on, I think he was 67. So he was kind of coming up, or maybe 65, coming up for retirement anyway. He's coming up for retirement, but there was a year where he could really make quite a big contribution to the employer if he was able to do these skills. So he came on, he went through and contributed. I think he went on way beyond retirement, but it is for all people. This is often, apprenticeships are perceived as kind of the first time you're in that role. It's certainly not. It's about progression through. So it's, you could come in a level 2, GCSE level, kind of get a qualification, but you could come in at level 3, level 4, which is kind of, moving towards degree. It's that we got a kind of level, level 5. So you can come into so many different levels within an organisation to take an apprenticeship. So it's.
So somebody listening thinking, actually, I could do logistics if I could see that there's a career path for me. I've got some education there. How could they sign up to one of these courses that you're putting on and then find an employer that's taking part in the College for Logistics?
So again, it's come through the website. We can then put you into a pool and we'll find the right location for you where we're engaged with an employer. We'll talk to you about would this employer be the right match for you? Let's find out if it's easy to get to, how that's going to work for you, and then we go into a bit more detail, take them through the kind of the initial engagement, but we're really trying to find the right match for the individual. It's not really testing the individual. It's about finding the opportunity that works for them.
Okay, so you mentioned GXO already, which has been a big supporter of what you guys are doing at the college.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're national.
Yeah.
You've also, I know the hub of where the College for Logistics is in Leighton Buzzard, so that's quite pretty central for people that. But you are. I'm right in thinking you're going to be rolling out these pockets of courses in various different areas, right?
So we've got 11 locations at the moment. So the Bedford College Group has 11 locations. So a lot of our delivery has been near where we are now. There's been a lot of Northampton delivery. There's been Corby, Wellingborough, those areas. But as you say, GXO, who's been a really great supporter of us, have provision programs everywhere, have delivery everywhere. And for this next year, we're going to be rolling out across in partnership with other organisations, but taking our provision and our approach and taking that out into the community. So it will, if you're in Manchester or Bristol, you'll have the opportunity to access our programs.
Fantastic.
So that's very much the view. I'm not quite sure how much will get done this year, but that's very much a new strand for this academic year, 26-27. Still, the focus is always about meeting need for the Bedford area. So it's Bedford College Group, and so meeting need in the Northampton Bedfordshire area is kind of our core driver. But we will be certainly, where there's an employer who has opportunities in other areas, we'll be working with them in other areas as well.
Okay. So again, just thinking about logistically where some of the businesses that I'm thinking about would be, so let's say Crick.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's always been a tough area to recruit for. It's but lots of logistics centres there. And distribution centres. If a business in Crick that might use, 200 or 300 people over peak periods, wants to then look at exploring that this is a kind of temp to perm route for somebody coming into the business. So they're ticking their CSR box, they're investing in community, they're spending their levy pot, they're doing the try before you buy, if it's temping them first, or is Crick a viable option for you in terms of delivery of people?
I mean, what we can do is, if there's an employer who has volume, we can almost build like a little mini college in a location nearby where recruitment is easier. And we can start to build that capacity to allow peak. What we're looking for, though, is long-term stability. Obviously, peak is, takes you through till Feb, and then suddenly returns are in and everybody's moved on. We want people who can have that long-term career opportunity. That's really what we're about.
I guess what I was thinking is, there are organisations, that they let's say, I'm just going to use round numbers because it's easier, right? They use 100 temps all year. But then at peak periods, they might fluctuate up to 300, and then for 12 weeks after that, they're back down to 100 again. If they were to explore this and even just take 10% of that core, so 10 people, and that are constantly being fed into by this program, then that's a win for everybody, right?
It is, I think we want to be part of the solution. I think that's what I would say. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you consider it as part of the solution? If you're looking at it, let's explore it together. Let's find a way that it works for you. It's going to be a cost-effective way to build for peak. And now's the time, isn't it? As we enter August, everybody's going to go away on holiday in logistics for a month, and then come September, it's going to get absolutely crazy again, isn't it? So we've got that kind
But
of.
we're already feeling it now, and we're in July, so
Yeah,
you know,
I was looking at the numbers. I mean, the numbers are already building. I think it's 1,000 warehouse vacancies and about 1,200 wagon vacancies at the moment across Northampton.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
Bedfordshire, so.
It seems very buoyant at the minute.
Yeah,
But is there anything else that you want to mention in terms of what the College for Logistics is doing, or?
Well, we've got a number of events coming up. We're celebrating our first successful year. And we'll be sharing stuff online on that. So we really want people to get involved. And I think the one thing I would reiterate is this college was created for the sector. So it's not mine. It's not really Bedford College Group's. This is designed for servicing the sector, so we want sector input. So we want everybody to feel like they own this, and we want people to go, you know, oh, have you considered this? We really need this type of person. What would you do with that? So we want as much input into what the future of our college looks like. So if we were looking at what it's like in 10 years' time, we hope it mirrors exactly what the needs of the sector are. You know, regardless of what that is, could be AI, you know, big data is obviously coming downstream. Who knows what the sector's going to look like in 10 years' time, but it certainly won't look like it does at the moment. I would think.
100%. But in order to keep it valid and offering value, you need the input from employers, right?
Yeah.
So anyone that is interested in exploring what the College for Logistics is doing now or in the future, reach out via the website.
Yeah. Go through Bedford College Group. There's nc4l.co.uk. That's National College for Logistics. And just engage with us. Just give us thoughts, give us feedback, tell us what you'd like to see. What would you like to see us doing? You know, we're always trying to, so the next iteration of our curriculum is being developed, and it's a permanent process. So we just want people to go, do you know, have you thought of this? And, you know, we want to have long term, we want to have kind of immersive rooms there where we can bring college school kids, they can have experience what a warehouse is all about. We've got a virtual warehouse that's opening at the moment, so we're going to have kind of fork trucks and activity going on, and we've got the new wagons coming in, so we've got, you know, new reversing areas. So there's lots of things that will be happening, and we're going to have display areas, so latest technology will be on show in the centre. So it really needs to be that focal point, that national college. As it says on the label, it's the national college. It's for the sector and for everybody to understand. So they come to our college to understand what the sector looks like. You know, this is their glimpse into what we know really well, what that world looks like. We know what it's, you know, the manic sessions on a, you know. I remember first experience I had at Heathrow on the Horseshoe, and just, you know, suddenly surrounded by millions of flowers coming in from Amsterdam at, you know, 10 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. And you think, this is just a crazy sector, but it's you know, it's a very exciting, dynamic time in the sector. It's the fastest moving. It's bigger than construction. It's the sector to be in if you're going to really want to be in something that's going to change radically over the next few years. So I think it's an exciting time, Chris.
Me
I'm
too.
motivated.
And I think that is a really good point to end the episode. So thank you again for coming on Talent Unboxed. I'm super excited, firstly, to be working with the Bedford College Group on this project, and definitely excited to see where this is going to take us both in terms of the journey with the apprenticeship levy and the funding and the boot camps and all of that stuff.
Well,
so
thank you so much for all your support, Chris. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Speak soon.